In headlines, the GECOM Commissioner says Gunraj says the Commission has the power to fire embattled Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield.
The Commission is not without power to terminate the services of the CEO.
President David Granger and First Lady Sandra Granger get tested for COVID-19. Fatal accidents on the roadways on the increase despite national curfew in place. Potari now is the new COVID-19 hotspot in Region 9 and a lone healthcare worker there tests positive. And in sport, Holder disappointed as Wokes and Broad bowl England to come from behind series win. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We started by telling you that the GECOM Commissioner says Gunraj says the Commission has the power to terminate the services of the Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield and appoint a new person to take over his duties. Despite being asked 4 times by the chairperson of GECOM to submit his final elections report using figures from the national vote recount, Lowenfield has refused to do so and has in fact sought to disenfranchise over 115,000 voters. Bibi Katoon reports.
It is almost 5 months since the March 2nd general and regional elections and no winner has been declared. With no end in sight to the current elections impasse, People's Progressive Party nominated Commissioner on the Guyana Elections Commission, says Gunraj, said GECOM has the power to dismiss its Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield and move on with the process. The embattled Lowenfield is also before the Georgetown Magistrates Court for 3 private criminal charges relating to fraud, misconduct in office, and breach of the public's trust by providing results of the March 2nd elections, which he knows to be false. He is currently on $450,000 bail.
The Commission is not without power to terminate the services of the CEO. And similarly, the Commission is not without the power. The Commission is perfectly able to take such steps as is necessary to either replace the CEO or to give directions to have its decisions carried out.
Gunraj was speaking during a live interview with Globespan online agency. Several political parties and the private sector commission have called for the CEO to be fired. Lowenfield has repeatedly refused to submit a report using the results from the national vote recount, which shows a win for the opposition People's Progressive Party by 15,416 votes. His most recent report to the commission contains figures from the returning officer for District 4 Clement Mingo, which was found to be fraudulent and bloated to give the incumbent APNU-AFC a victory at the polls. On Thursday, the Court of Appeal is set to deliver its ruling in a case challenging those recount figures, and Gunraj is optimistic that the situation will come to an end when the court rules.
Come Thursday, when the court rules in a manner that he expects it to rule, similarly, I expect that the suffering that this nation has been subjected to over the last 5 odd months would come to an end.
The appeal court is being asked to reverse the High Court ruling that the recount figures are valid and should be used to declare the election's winner. This is the 4th litigation before the court since March 2nd, and each time, GECOM decided to await the court's final ruling.
Staying of the Commission's hand, so to speak, on every occasion has been by choice and not compulsion. I think it was on one occasion that there was an injunction restraining the Commission from acting. But there has been no impediment preventing the Commission from declaring, etc., except by choice.
Previous litigations have ended up before the Caribbean Court of Justice. The CCJ will be going on a 2-month vacation from July 31st to August 5th, but has noted that its e-filing system remains open and any matter considered urgent by the court will be heard. Bibi Katoon, Newsroom.
We tell you now that President David Granger and First Lady Sandra Granger on Monday tested for COVID-19. The Ministry of the Presidency, in a statement on Tuesday, said President Granger urged Guyanese to adhere to the various precautionary measures implemented since March to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. The President also urged that all persons who develop signs and symptoms of the disease to seek urgent medical attention. The head of state reminded that COVID-19 is a global pandemic for which there is no cure. He said fighting the pandemic requires collective and continuous action by all. President of the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union, GOW, Komal Chand, was on Tuesday laid to rest 3 days after his body was flown home from Cuba, where he died in April. Chand died while receiving treatment for pneumonia in Havana, Cuba. He was accompanied by his wife. In May, the National COVID-19 Task Force granted approval for the body to return to Guyana from Cuba. Chand joined the GOW in 1975 as the union's organizing secretary and later served as the organization's president up to the time of his passing. Described as an individual who was committed to his work, Chand dedicated his career to fighting for the protection and rights of workers in the sugar, rice, and numerous other industries in Guyana. When the newsroom returns, fatal accidents on the roadways on the increase despite national curfew in place, and a family of 3 loses house to a fire in Region 2. Welcome back. This is the Newsroom. Despite a national curfew in place for 4 months, fatal accidents have increased from January to July 2020 compared to the same period last year. The National Road Safety Council has found that close to 50% of those accidents involved young motorcyclists. Bibi Katoon reports.
A total of 8 fatal accidents were recorded from January to July 2020, which resulted in the deaths of 84 persons, including 4 children. 37 of those accidents included motorcyclists. According to the Guyana National Road Safety Council, this is a significant increase from 59 fatal accidents during the same period last year, which resulted in 63 deaths, including 6 children. Coordinator of the GNRSC, Ramona Durgen, expressed alarm that accidents continue even with the curfew in place.
It was atrocious. I don't have words to say what because to know that 2020, and you can imagine we had a lockdown for a while where people should have been off the road. We're supposed to have less movement on the road and things like that. And to see that our figures are so high, you're talking 84 in July, and research has shown, and there's evidence out there that the deadliest month of the year is October, November, and sometimes December if you don't put it on, keep it under control. One of the things is that we've noticed in this case, something persons, but 50% or more is young motorcyclists. Motorcyclists has now become the most vulnerable road user. One of the reasons is that you find that a lot of these young guys picking up these CGs and riding them without motorcycle helmets. And many times you might hear that there was an accident and the guy had on his helmet, but the helmet might not be of standard and the appropriate helmet that should have been, that could protect your head when you hit the ground.
Durjan said there seems to have been a decrease in enforcement of road safety rules since the COVID-19 restrictions were implemented. As such, persons have been speeding to their deaths.
We have released enforcement a bit, and I think people took advantage of that. And one of the things that you always find is that whenever you find that there's less traffic on the road, people tend to think that they're alone on the roadways, and they always drive at a rate that they should not be driving. So I think that's the most I can say for the lockdown, because it is kind of like you don't have words to say anymore, baby, because one of the things is that we have this COVID. You know, as a reporter, how massive this COVID virus is. This is a global problem, and they've taken it in control. Now, what happened now? We have 20 deaths in a massive problem like this. We have 84 deaths in road crashes. Why? Because resources are not funneling into those areas.
There were over 115 deaths recorded at the end of 2019 from approximately 100 accidents. In 2018, there were 92 deaths recorded from a total of 79 accidents, showing a steady increase in fatal accidents in recent years. P. Katoon reporting for the Newsroom.
We tell you now that a dredge owner, his wife and 12-year-old niece are now homeless after a fire on Monday morning destroyed their 2-story wooden and concrete house at Akuweni, Lower Pomeroon River Region 2. Police are treating the fire as arson. Newsroom understands that 39-year-old Epson English was at an interior location working while his wife, 39-year-old Bevon Melville English, and her 12-year-old niece were at the farm located at about 1 mile from the house. At around 9:30, a 53-year-old farmer, Julian Benjamin, claimed that he was passing in the river with his boat when he saw the house on fire. He raised an alarm and persons rushed to the location. They formed a bucket brigade to extinguish the blaze but was unable to save anything. The wife arrived home and broke down in tears. An investigation is ongoing. The Ghana Sugar Corporation, GECOM, on Monday said it lost $37.9 million as a result of 50 strike actions during the first crop of 2020. Providing a breakdown, the corporation in a statement said there were 27 strikes at the Blairmont Estate, resulting in a loss of $13.6 million, 6 at Iflat Estate, resulting in a loss of $4.2 million, and 17 at Albion Port Morant, resulting in a loss of $20.1 million. Total production loss industry-wise as a result of the day's loss was 2,307 tons of sugar. The first crop was completed in June. The total production achieved was 37,015 tons of sugar, 9,461 less than the target of 46,476 tons of sugar. GECOM said the crop was closed with 1,093 hectares of carryover canes to be harvested. This translates to 66,000 tons of cane that will be carried over to the second crop of 2020, which starts this week. The average harvester attendance for the crop was 54.3% across the industry, which was impacted by the circumstances surrounding the novel coronavirus. This also resulted in employees being off of work for 2 weeks and contributed to the shortfall. GECOM said it continues to strengthen its partnership with the unions and sees them as valuable partners for the achievement of the target in the second crop of 2020 and towards building a more resilient business. The corporation is currently working on a campaign, I Believe in GECOM, to get workers buy-in on its 5-year strategic plan. When the newsroom returns, Potari now is the new COVID-19 hotspot in Region 9 and the lone health worker there tests positive. Potari now is the new COVID-19 hotspot in Region 9 after 10 persons in the village have so far tested positive for the virus. Additionally, the lone healthcare worker who is attached to the health facility in Shulinab and treats patients from the village and surrounding areas was also tested positive, according to the South Rupununi District Council. Bibi Katoon reports.
19 new COVID cases were recorded in Region 9 on Monday, bringing the total number of cases in that region to 41. Of that amount, 36 cases are active with 10 in Potaro now. According to Immaculata Casimero of the South Rupununi District Council, the cases in the communities of Potaro now, Katur, Baitun and Kwaiko were transmitted from one resident who entered the region illegally from Brazil. Brazil has over 2 million cases and 88,000 deaths. Casimero explained that the residents all use the same farmlands, making it easier for the disease to spread.
Actually, he came over from the place they call Pium in Brazil. Came through apparently through Kator and into Kwaiko. Actually, he came from Brazil. That the closer village to the border is Kator village. It's like about 15 to 20 miles away from the border. So from there, he would cross, and then he came straight probably to his village. That's Kwaiko, and that's where the spreading began, from Kwaiko. And because they're all related, I mean, it's different villages, but of course, they share the same boundary, they share the same resources, farming grounds, and so that's how come it spread from there.
2 elderly men who came into contact with someone who later tested positive for COVID-19 died last week in the village of Potaro now. As a result, health workers have taken samples from several residents and were in the village again on Tuesday, where they were taking samples for further testing. According to Casimero, there are not many health facilities close by, and the lone health worker at the Shulinap Health Center was tested positive for COVID-19.
In Shulinap is the mother village of Kwaiko. Kwaiko people would have to access the health center in Shulinap, which is like about 5 miles away from the mother village. We received word today that the community has workers who is from Kwaiko, but she works at the Shulinap Health Center and she is also tested positive. The community has worker of Shulinap. As I mentioned, Shulinap is a big village, but you have 2 satellite communities, that's Merwa and Kwaiko, about 5 miles from the mother village, but I mean, they are part of the village. So the community health worker is really from Kwaiko. So she would work in Suriname.
Okay.
Because she has been like looking and make sure she's working along with the patients and so apparently she got the virus also.
The South Rupununi District Council had previously raised concerns about the lack of health facilities and other resources to combat the spread of the virus. 21 villages, which falls under the council's mandate, are on lockdown to stop the spread of the disease, but with community transmission, there is little that can be done. The council has now embarked on a drive to get supplies to households which have been placed in quarantine. Bibi Katoon reporting for the Newsroom.
We now bring you an update from the Ministry of Public Health on Guyana's COVID-19 situation.
As of the 28th of July 2020, of the 62 tests done, the number of positive cases is now 396, with 20 COVID-related deaths. The number of active cases in institutional isolation is 195. 34 persons are in institutional quarantine and 4 persons are in the COVID ICU. To date, 181 persons have recovered. Of the 7 new cases today, 6 cases are coming from Arau in region number 7 and 1 case from the city. Fellow Guyanese, our hotspots continue to be regions 7 and 9, which remains high-risk areas. Today, the majority are coming from region 7, and yesterday, all the new cases were reported in region number 9. As you're aware, Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo region shares a wide expanse of border with Brazil, where COVID-19 is rampant. Globally, Brazil ranks second after the United States of America and has reported a total of 2,455,905 cases with 88,017 deaths. Residents, the ministry continue to plead with you to adhere to the health guidelines and intensify your community action. Village councillors, gatekeepers, and prominent members of the community, your role is to work collectively to ensure compliance with the regulations if you wish to keep down the transmission of the disease. No cross-border movement should be allowed, and any migrant to the community must be immediately reported to the authorities. In the communities too, you have to act responsibly. Your health and safety are at risk.
We tell you now that a 36-year-old minor was on Tuesday sentenced to 13 years imprisonment after he confessed to killing his drinking buddy, Daniel George, during an argument over a cigarette at a shop at Barakat Landing, Mazruni River on October 16, 2018. Parshram Ramnath, formerly of Tushan East Bank, Essequibo, appeared before Justice Sandil Kisoon via Zoom to answer to the charge of murder, but he opted to plead guilty to the lesser count of manslaughter. The incident occurred at Barakat Bagdam. According to a probation report, Ramnath in 2006 was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for drug trafficking, and in 2007 he was sentenced to another 6 months imprisonment for inflicting grievous bodily harm. As it relates to the 2018 incident, Ramnath said he and George, along with others, were consuming alcohol together at a shop. Ramnath got into an argument with another co-worker identified as Imtiaz Miguel about cigarettes, and this led to the pelting of bottles. Ramnath claimed that he was eventually cornered by Miguel and his friends, during which George got involved and was stabbed to death with a Rambo knife. The probation officer, in her conclusion, said that based on her findings, Ramnath was provoked to anger by the witness Imtiaz Miguel, and George was the unfortunate victim in the incident. The Counter-Trafficking in Persons Unit has rescued 43 victims of human trafficking between January and July 2020. The majority of the victims were females, and the unit said migrants continue to be the most vulnerable.
The Ministry of Social Protection said 8 males and 35 female nationals were rescued from human traffickers in January to July of 2020. The Counter-Trafficking in Persons Unit said 22 reports of suspected human trafficking were received, of which 8 were confirmed cases. Coordinator of the unit, Tanisha Williams-Corbin, noted that the common forms of trafficking prevalent in Guyana are forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude, with migrants being most vulnerable. Williams-Corbin also acknowledged the critical role of the public in arresting the problem. She urged persons to report any suspicious activities to the 24 hours hotline numbers 227-4083 or 623-5030. The unit on Monday launched a week of activities to observe World Day Against Trafficking in Persons on July 30th. This year's theme is embracing diversity, reducing vulnerabilities, and promoting safe migration. Baby Katoon, Newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge reports along with sport. Stay tuned.